I gotta be honest. I was surprised when I saw this, as I'm sure many people were, if not most. But OJ Simpson died today, 76 years old, of cancer. And obviously, Rob, OJ Simpson, it's an understatement to say it's complicated. One of the greatest running backs of all time was, for the young people, Rob, they don't know, and I get it, but they may not understand how big he was, right? I'm not going to say LeBron James because I don't think he was as good as LeBron James in this sport. But he was in the 70s, OJ Simpson was in the conversation. Who's the best running back of all time? It's either OJ or Jim Brown. OJ was in all the commercials.
And he was a crossover guy, like crossover.
Oh, he went out of his way to crossover.
No, there's no doubt to where he was.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
To where he was a famous quote that he wasn't black, he was OJ. Is that what it was? Is that the quote?
I think there was some in his Brentwood, California neighborhood. Yeah.
Isn't it
yeah,
something
I don't
like
remember
that?
the context, but somebody said, I know there was a quote where he said during the time of his trial or whatever, when blacks were out in Brentwood trying to support him, he said something like, where are these N-words, what they doing out here, or something like that.
Crazy. Did he really say that? Wow.
I mean, I think I remember this stuff from his documentary. I don't know exactly.
Right.
But OJ, yeah, I remember, Rob, when he did Monday Night Football, right? Was he the first African-American commentator on Monday Night Football?
He might have been, and I think he only did it for a year or two. I know it was
I think
brief.
he did more than a year, because I think
really
at first he came back, he did it, and then he purposely took the bass out of his voice when he came back so he could sound more white. I mean, you remember that, Rob? You remember that? He wanted to sound more white, and but obviously beyond all that, he in most people's eyes murdered two people, including his ex-wife. And the question we have up here, Rob, is, can you separate OJ Simpson from these murders, whether you think he did them or not? And the answer to me is a clear-cut no. I mean, when you think of OJ Simpson, that is what's going to come to mind, regardless of what side you stand on. And yeah, I mean, I remember, Rob, where, it's one of those things when the white Bronco that he was in, and his friend AJ Cowlings, I think was the name, former player, teammate of his, was driving the white Ford Bronco.
That was during the NBA Finals.
Yes.
with the Rockets and the Knicks.
I
NBC
remember,
had a double box, Chris. During the NBA Finals, there was a double box. There was a game in one box.
Right. And showing him.
And OJ and Al Cowling.
He was an absolute, again, legend. And I remember I was covering high school sports in Cleveland at the time. And Rob, at least the people I talked to, and these were white people, most people thought he didn't, initially, when he was first made a suspect, people were like, no way. It was just kind of like, okay, they're just doing their due diligence and all of that. And then it became an incredibly polarizing trial that to some degree was split along racial lines, to some degree. I don't want to say completely. But I don't think you can separate him, Rob, at all from this.
No. And you say it's complicated. I don't know how complicated it is, Chris. I just think that when you're involved in a case like that, that's what you're remembered for. That no matter what. He was, and I've said this all the time, he was acquitted. People don't want to hear it. Yep. I'm not naive, Chris. Do I think he was involved in this double
didn't
murder. I do.
Did he lose the civil?
Yeah, but that's
Civil
easy.
suit.
Right, just not.
I'm just saying,
it's easier. Right,
it's not
it's
as
easier.
the same. Right, by any
Right, and
beyond
the criminal
doubt. Right.
Yeah, it's beyond reasonable doubt. And civil, you don't have to hit those kind of
The
markers.
burden of proof. Right.
Exactly. So I just think young, old. When you think of OJ, it ain't about his college career. It ain't about the Hertz commercials running through the airport. It ain't about 2,000 yards and rushing for the Buffalo Bills. It's just not. It's always going to be, and that's why I think there were people today, Chris, on Twitter, right? Was it Magic and who was the other one?
Todd Gurley and Magic Johnson.
They got an enormous pushback from people.
Yeah,
today.
go ahead, Rob G, and explain what happened on Twitter.
Yeah, so they both were two of the very small minority of public figures to put anything even close to condolences to OJ Simpson. Let's start off Todd Gurley. Number one, his tweet out that was put out this morning says, "R.I.P. to the legendary OJ Simpson, your favorite running back's favorite running back. Appreciate you, Uncle O. Juice, you'll be missed. Thanks for the past year being on It Is What It Is, that podcast. Heisman, #1 pick, NFL MVP, first ever 2,000-yard rusher, let alone to do it in 14 games. The list goes on and on. Praying hands." Todd Gurley turned off all replies to his tweet. That's how bad things got. Okay. Magic Johnson.
Well, that was a pretty
it was more favorable than
naive.
But this,
you know what you can't do in life, Chris? Even in time of death, you can't just heap praise on people when other things are involved in there. It's like an obituary. Like, you go to the New York Times obituary, Chris. OJ Simpson, who was acquitted in a world famous double, right? That's what they say first. OJ Simpson, Rob G, comma, who was acquitted in a famous double murder case involving his ex-wife and another person, whatever, was a great NFL running back. Like that, the murder comes first.
Yeah.
Ain't no way around it.
No doubt.
Well, then listen to this one. Magic Johnson. Now, this might be the most innocuous tweet possible, and he still found a way to get roasted. Magic Johnson on Twitter. Cookie and I are praying for O.J. Simpson's children, Arnell, Aaron, Justin, Jason, and Sydney, and his grandchildren following his passing. I know this is a very difficult time. Let me just read you some of the comments from this tweet. Yeah, a difficult time for the staff in hell arranging his arrival. You're kidding, right? Hell just got a top draft pick. Ain't no prayers needed. What?
Yeah, I mean, look, Magic's tweet wasn't even about OJ. I mean, it was about his family.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with Magic's tweet. I mean, I hear, obviously, people, many, if not most people think he did commit these murders. And I get people being upset and all that. Magic's tweet, that doesn't make OJ's children and survivors guilty of anything. And so I have no problem with Magic's tweet. Todd Gurley's is just straight naive. I mean, and how old was Todd Gurley? I mean, he was probably a toddler when all this happened.
I agree.
That's
Todd
not
Gurley
necessarily
is 29.
Yeah,
He's 20. He didn't see.
So that's
he
not
didn't see
an
O.J.
excuse,
Simpson, right?
But that he obviously. I mean, it's just naive, and you're gonna get pushback on that. I mean, he acted like nothing
else happened. Right. It was just like a football career.
Right, like a great football player.
You just got to be, like I say, Chris, you tell the whole story. We talk about it all the time in life. You got to tell the whole story, the good, the bad, the indifferent. Tom Brady in his obituary, Chris, they'll talk about Deflategate. They'll talk, you know what I mean? Like that'll
be lower. It'll be much lower.
Right. But I'm just saying, but it'll be in there. Is all I'm saying. Everything you do.
But that'll be low. But this is beyond.
When I'm gone, it's going to be, RG3 is going to be in my obituary. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? No, it ain't. No, Mike, it will be in there. What do you mean? It will be in there. I'm just saying, everything you do. And there'll be a lot of good stuff, which I'll be happy about. Like I work with you for
You're happy about
years.
RG3. You love that. OJ Simpson died today, 76 years old, cancer. One of the greatest running backs in the history of the NFL. Rob, his 143 yards a game in the year where he ran for 2,003 yards, first ever 2,000-yard rusher, is still the record. And, Rob, it's the record by 10 yards a game.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, that year was just dynamite. And he was never on really good teams either. So he was just, I mean, everybody knew what was coming. It was OJ left, OJ right, and that's how good he was. That was in 1973. All right, 877-99 on Fox. Can you separate OJ from the two murders that he was
found acquitted for? Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Kenneth in Georgia, you're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Kenneth?
Well, good evening, fellas. It's been a long time since I talked to you guys. Real quick, hey, man, I'm a USC fan, so I like all the guys in this. But it is kind of hard for me to separate OJ for the murders. But also, I don't think Magic. I don't think Magic said anything that should get anybody twisted up about. But the fact that it's just Magic. And I'm sure there are some people who still kind of hold Magic to a little higher standard. But, they probably think, well, classy guy like Magic, he shouldn't have said anything at all or whatever. But
yeah, I don't think he said anything wrong. It's just probably, I mean, I don't think it's a no-win situation.
Right. That's probably, Chris, the best way to say it. Yeah. Like, they're going to be, no matter what you say, maybe that's better off just being a phone call to the family or, you know what I mean, a personal message more so than doing it socially on social media. I think that is maybe the misstep. Everything doesn't have to be public, right?
Right.
If I support somebody or you got support for them, you got to be careful, definitely. Anthony in Rochester, New York, you're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Anthony?
Hey, what's going on, guys? I don't call in the radio. I just listen to you guys. You know what I'm saying? And I got a funny feeling about you guys got to be careful of what you say about this guy because there's so much hate for this guy, and I'm talking about hate in high places. You know what I'm saying? There's hate in high places, and you can lose your jobs complimenting this guy on anything he did good. You know what I'm saying?
No, I think you got to give the whole story. Chris and I are talking about his achievements. Right. It's a whole story. The big thing, Anthony, is you just can't talk, even in death, you can't talk up the good stuff. I remember, and I'm not putting OJ in this class, Chris or Anthony, but Marge Schott, when she was the owner of the Reds, Chris, one of her quotes about Hitler was something like, before killing the Jews, he did a good job paving the roads and fixing the city. You know what I mean? Like that was her compliment to Hitler about fixing the roads and management of Germany. And I'm like, that is not going to go over. Nobody cares about that.
Why even say that? And again, he was acquitted, but these were murders. It wasn't like he got, people think he sold drugs or something like that. This is two people lost their lives. And again, he was acquitted, but obviously many people of different races, not just whites, think he was guilty.
Chris, you know what I want to say too? I just looked up the schedule. I think I went to that game where OJ broke the record against the Jets.
You would have been a little kid, obviously.
Yeah, but 1973, I was 9 years old.
Right. Oh, wow.
Yeah, no. My friend Lamont Bailey, his dad, was a season ticket holder.
Okay.
And he would take us every so often. They had season tickets. And for the life of me, I remember being at that game. And you know what I mean? And then I just looked it up to second guess myself. I was like, was I really at that game? And then I look at it, and they played at Shea Stadium December 16th, Chris, and Buffalo beat them 34-14.
Yeah,
yep.
He was MVP that year, and they were 9-5, made the playoffs. It's interesting because now, obviously, we talk so much about winning. He only played in one playoff game.
Yeah.
in his whole
Buffalo.
career.
This wasn't a Buffalo that went to 4 straight Super Bowls.
No. They weren't
And-
a very good team.
No. And Rob G, you found something else on
Yeah, so there's another public figure who put out a tweet about OJ is also getting eviscerated in the comments. Former NFL All-Pro wide receiver Roddy White. Remember he played for the Falcons there for a minute? Mm-hmm. Here's what he put out 7 hours ago. Don't understand ESPN. Why is OJ's death the lead if you're just going to slander him for 5 paragraphs in an article? His family is grieving this man's loss, and the worldwide leader in sports is going to put that out there on a national platform. Rest easy, Juice.
Well, I think his family understands the situation. I mean, they knew he wasn't, I would think they knew he wasn't going to get praised. He's been living, now he hasn't been in exile. You know, he was on Twitter and
he's been on a podcast.
He went on it. Yeah, he was on the Cam Round and Mason's podcast, right?
You know, he followed me, right, on my Twitter.
Oh.
OJ followed me on Twitter. And I don't know what it was that I said or whatever. You know, I mean, like sometimes Chris, they have clips or something, and he followed me. But my point is ESPN is doing nothing wrong. So I mean, I know you want to bash the media. It's always kill the messenger. OJ Simpson dying is a lead story. Hello?
Absolutely.
Come on now. What are you talking about? It's the lead story on ESPN.
His family has had to deal with this since
for
this
years.
happened. So
right.
they I mean, come on. I'm sure they're not surprised at what's going on.